do professors know when a student used ChatGPT badly?
Yes. There's a difference between knowing and being able to prove. I want you to put on the grading thing just an X beside all the ones where pretty sure this was LLM generated. I'm a big believer that like you don't actually need me to give you content, right? Like intro programming, there are unlimited YouTube channels and tutorials. That's not why you're in my class. You're in my class for me to help you become a better person.
How often do you check your Reddit, and how often do you like see the posts, and then you're like, okay, like I have to reply to this one?
More often than I should. I basically have no other social media other than Reddit.
Wow.
Just because I'm like, well, I could go and spend 15 minutes scrolling TikTok or Instagram or something. And at the end, I just feel kind of empty. Or I could go and jump on Reddit and answer a student question or try to connect with a student, and in the end, you feel filled.
Perfect. Today, I'm joined by Professor Brian Harrington, teaching stream professor in computer and mathematical sciences at the University of Toronto Scarborough. He started as UTSC Computer Science student, went on to complete his MSc and doctorate at Oxford in Artificial Intelligence and Natural Language Processing, taught and researched at Oxford, worked as a researcher in medical informatics, and then came back to UTSC, where many students now know him from first-year computer science courses, undergraduate research, and surprisingly, Reddit.
Yes, the Reddit prof, yes.
That's right. Today, we're not just talking about coding. We're talking about what makes first-year students panic, why computer science feels so intimidating at first, how AI is changing education, and why Professor Harrington spends time helping students even outside the classroom. Professor Harrington, thank you so much for coming today.
Oh, happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, I hope it's going to be a really amazing and very thoughtful, informational podcast today, especially for first-year students. Coming from an international background from Uzbekistan, my first year was in UTSC. So I've taken a couple of courses, including CSCA 20. So that's an introductory course for computer science, I believe, right? So when I've first started my education, like my studying here, it was pretty tough for me to kind of understand the way how the professors like grade us, because like I back home like studying in local educational systems, which was completely different for me. But then like after attending your first lecture, it was really amazing. I even I think I do have the recorded video of you taking peanut butters,
Putting peanut butter on a sandwich, yes.
on a sandwich.
Yeah.
The classical way of you explaining the hard concepts, which I really, really liked, honestly. And when I first started my influencer journey, I remember sharing it with people. I'm like, hey, like guys, like this is so far the best, because obviously like we had like so many tough courses first year, as you know, like, and I was like, wow, this got me really, excited. And I remember discussing with my friends. So what's the reason why like you decide to like take this approach where you're like explain physically, like, because if we look at like typical lectures, like at Yale, I've been to Harvard like last year, and I've been to computer science class, and the way how the things are explained, obviously it differs. First year and third year is mostly like computers, all like coding. But then like the way how you engage with students, it really like just grabs the attention. So I just wanted to know, like, how did you come up with this approach, like teaching approach? Was it just a natural calling, or was it just like something that you like had to like sit down and think about?
So I should first of all caveat the peanut butter make a peanut butter sandwich thing is not mine. In fact, I don't know where I first heard about it. It's been around for a long time, but I have seen actually Harvard CS50 has done it. A lot of different people have done it. For people who don't know, the idea is intro programming. You're really trying to get very beginning of the course, get across this idea that computers only do what you tell them to do. They're not going to understand nuance. They're not going to understand context. So this is the problem that a lot of first-year students have. is they sort of over anthropomorphize the computer. So they say, hey, just do this, and then don't understand when it gets it wrong. So the make a peanut butter sandwich is a way of saying, hey, I'm going to be a computer. You give me instructions on how to make a peanut butter sandwich. So if students do things like put the peanut butter on the bread, you go and you take the jar of peanut butter and put it on the bread. Or put the knife in the peanut butter, you go and you take the whole knife and stick it in the peanut butter. And it works generally as an instructional tool, but the main reason I do it is actually not that. The main reason I do it is because this is an A-level course. It is for non-CS majors, so a lot of people, it is their first time doing anything relating to coding. For a lot of people, it's very, very intimidating. And the main thing I really want is I want students to leave that room just having a bit of a wake-up call, having a, like, you know, I love the idea of, hey, honey, how was your first day at university? This professor just like smeared jam all over the counter. Weird. But to make them understand, hey, this is not high school anymore. This is a different way of thinking about things. And just getting them to sort of go, all right, well, we have to think differently about things. I'm not going to be like your high school teacher. Because I'm a big believer that first year university, at the University of Toronto, everyone in the room is smart. That's just, you know, that's just a given. Anyone to make it into that course, you are a smart person. So now we are trying to differentiate not based on who's smartest, but who is able to think differently, who's able to understand, who's able to manage their time, who's able to self-govern. That's really what's going to be acceptance or failure in your first year. So really, it's a way of me shaking up the system a little bit to get students thinking differently than what they've done in high school.
Yeah, and that course specifically, CSCA 20, did exactly that, what you explained. Yeah, before we dive into anything specific, like anything too detailed, I just wanted to talk about, like, I wanted to start with your experience at UTSC. Like, you yourself as a UTSC student, how were you back then? Like, were you, I don't know, like, a punctual student, or were you like a 4.0 student?
I mean, I was a good student. Given that I went on to grad school, I kind of had to be. I think my skills were not being smarter than anyone else. It was being more on top of things. I credit a lot of my success in my first year to two things. So one is my first year university, I was dating the same girl that I dated in high school, and she lived up in Markham. And I sort of made a deal of, okay, I want to go home on the weekends to see you. I was living in residence, but I wanted to either I go home to see you or you come to see me in residence. And so I said, okay, well, I have to get all my work done by Friday so that Friday after school, I can go up to Markham and see you or pick you up or whatever. And that just naturally led to, okay, Monday you do calculus, and however long it takes, you do calculus. Then Tuesday you do whatever your courses are. But because it sort of forced my hand to manage my time, that was just the way I continued for 4 years. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that students have is they sort of, you wind up when it's time to work, you're a little bit distracted so you don't get work done. So then it's time to relax, but you didn't get your work done so you don't really relax. And you wind up in this sort of middle state. Yeah. And I think just naturally, my first year, I was like, okay, Monday through Friday at 5 p.m., I'm working my butt off because Friday at 5 p.m. until Sunday night, I am just relaxing. And that sort of forced me to kind of work when it's work time and, you know, relax when it's relax time. And the other thing that was for me so crucial is I lived in residence and we had 3 or 4 of us were computer science or CS adjacent students, and we kind of became the hangout spot for the computer science students. Not in a like, yeah, we're partying, but in a like, okay, well, I don't think I ever really did homework sitting in my room because these were A block residents. A block, we call Aspen Hall, I think.
Oh, so you lived in a townhouse.
A3, yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, the rooms, it was a shared room. You don't have a lot of space. So mostly I did work sitting in the kitchen, and we would all kind of do work together. And I think that's another thing that I always try to push students for is like
Living
doing
in
university on your own sucks. Find other people. You are in a place with tens of thousands of students all going through the same journey. Take advantage of
that is, yeah, I think that's so valid advice. And like I think we had like a pretty similar situation in first year because I remember living in A10 Aspen Hall, so that was like few houses, townhouses
that.
below. But yeah, I still remember like the kitchen, like the layout, as
Yep.
you know, like you sit down with your friends. Like I have all those recorded, and it was really incredible experience. And I think first year living residence like was definitely worth it. But now like I just moved downtown with my friends this month, so
Yep.
that's like a completely different lifestyle, like a city life. So yeah, I want to talk about a little bit about you, like UTSC to Oxford transition. So you came back to UTSC. So when you returned as a professor, did the campus feel different from when you were a student?
Wildly. So, if you look at the history of this campus, it was sort of a slow incline till around the late 90s, early 2000s, and suddenly this like hockey stick increase. And so I was here just at the beginning of that. So I think when I started, there was like 4,000, 5,000 students. There was the same three buildings there had been for 40 years. In fact, in my final year, this building, the Student Center, opened just after I graduated.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all the students who go, oh, well, this thing, I paid for this thing for 4 years and then it gets built after I'm done. Well, I paid for this building for 4 years and then it got built after I was done. But it was very much like this very slow build on the campus. And then suddenly around that like early 2000s, everything just exploded.
Mm-hmm.
So I went away, came back nearly a decade later, and suddenly the campus is like triple the size it was, both in terms of the number of students and the buildings. The Pan Am Center was just being opened. We didn't have a north campus. There was nothing. It was only parking lots north of Ellesmere.
Oh wow.
So like the instructional center, obviously IA was, Sam Ibrahim building was obviously not there. So it was really still like the S wing and the H wing were the main buildings on campus. The B wing, as they called the R wing back then, that is now Highland Hall, was sort of just basically a big gym, but like a gymnasium. The actual gym was like 4 treadmills and 2 exercise bikes, and that was it. And so yeah, it was definitely, it went from being an overloaded small campus to a reasonably medium-sized campus, according to, like, by North American standards. UTSC is now a largish medium-sized campus just in its own right, not even connecting to the tri-campus model.
Yeah, perfect. And I wanted to a little bit touch upon about your courses that you teach at UTSC and the students, the way how they study, the way how they, do the homeworks. But the first question is about, for students taking your courses or an introductory CS course, what should they understand before the course even starts?
So I think the big message that I've been pushing for years is that, especially an A-level course, is not about smarts. It is not about deep understanding of material. It is about showing that you have the chops to manage your way through the requirements. So A-level courses will have a lot of work. Almost this is true of, I think, any. It's not just computer science. I think any A-level course. It is just, okay, can you handle the volume of work? Can you keep on top of things? Can you manage your time? Can you, just deal with all this?
Yeah.
To me, A-level is kind of your proving grounds to go, hey, do you have the sort of technical abilities to be a student? It almost doesn't matter what courses you're taking. It's just, hey, can you make that transition from high school to university? B-level is then usually, at least in computer science, but I think it's true in a lot of places, is you get a little taste of everything. You kind of, here's your fundamentals that you need. And then C and D level is where you can kind of choose what you want. But I think for students, I see a lot of students who, they show up thinking like, okay, first year computer science, so I'm going to learn, deep machine intelligence stuff. Or complicated mathematics stuff. It's like, well, no, you're not. You're really learning the fundamentals, but you're getting the fundamentals down solidly. but also the students who, again, the fact that you're here means that you did well in high school, sort of definitionally, right? The grades are high. U of T is top school in Canada. We only select the best, but the skills that help you succeed in high school are not always the skills that will help you succeed in university. So it's really about understanding that transition. What skills do you need to abandon, and what skills do you need to focus on?
I see. And yeah, for me particularly, like CSCA 20, it was more of like, especially the modules that I'm not sure if it's still there, but the modules that we had, the tutorials that we had, it was very helpful, like doing those exercises, you know. And eventually, when I first came here, like when I was taking the course, I thought, okay, so that's mostly about Python, and that's what we're gonna learn. But then week 6 happens, and we're learning about like images, right?
Yep.
Was it? Yeah. So, but then I was like, okay, so I need a little bit more attention to this matter because I haven't learned it, right? I don't have any background. But yeah, thanks so much for sharing. And the other question that we have here is, what's the biggest mistake? What's the biggest mistake students make when learning how to code?
So I guess the biggest when learning how to code specifically is focusing on code.
Hmm.
So computer science is about code like architecture is about woodworking or bricklaying, right? It's a thing you need to understand the basics of to build things,
Mhm.
but that's not really what we're focusing on here. Or maybe is something that might be a little bit more is computers coding is to computer science as like handwriting is to storytelling or typing is to storytelling, I guess nowadays. Like, yes, you need those fundamentals. You need to get good at them. You will be using them a lot, but that's not really what we're trying to teach you here. And so I think that's something where students struggle in, again, not just computer science, but any course that you focus so much on the technical side of things that you lose sight of what you're actually trying to learn. And especially in a course like computer science, where we're not going to be giving you an exam where you're actually writing code like you do at home. You are doing it in pen and paper, you're doing it in a structured environment. So we're not really evaluating your ability to use the development environments or debug code. We are really testing, did you understand that deeper level of material?
Mm.
So I think that's something that first year students, specifically with code, really struggle with. But just in general, I think of all students, the biggest issue is trying to do it alone. I think a lot of students now, they come from a school where they have had in high school, everything is sort of pushed, it's given to them. Maybe you have parents who are organizing your time or checking on your homework or all this stuff. Suddenly they get into university where it's open. No one's pushing you to do anything. You are not responsible. I always say to students, and I probably said to you in A20, if you walk out of this room right now, never set foot on campus again, the university is very happy to cash your tuition checks. Not only is it not my job, I'm not allowed to chase you down, right? You're an adult now. I'm not allowed to go, hey, you didn't come to my lecture today. In high school, that's the model you have.
Yeah.
In university, you need to get that self-accountability. And for the most part, high school level students going into university do not have that. So you need to have a team around you, a group of other students that can help you build in that accountability, right? Especially with just something as simple as going to class. If you have people where you go to class together, on those days where you're like, oh, I'm tired, I'm not feeling great, I don't feel like going to class. Oh, but I have to go because Alice is counting on me. It might be that Alice is sitting there going, oh, this is a terrible day. I was up late last night, but I have to go because Bob is counting on me. And then you both wind up going. Having that structure and system is what really makes a difference. You can't just go, yeah, I'll just power through it. I'll just use my own, sense of urgency. That won't last you the year. Is having a system, particularly counting on other people, is really what's important for first year.
That's right. But I also have another follow-up question about this. So I did have a group of people that I studied with in my first year, but what ended up happening usually was just like us grabbing a snack, talking. So how do you like usually set the measures? Like how do you set the boundaries and you're like, hey guys, like we have to study for
Yeah.
this. So how do you manage to do that?
So I go back to what I said earlier about work when it's work time and play when it's play time. So one of the things we used to do, I remember for, a perfect example is that period between the end of classes and the beginning of exams, right? That is the most crucial part of your year, and most students throw it away because they kind of go, well, I'm tired, so I didn't really get anything done. And then I realize, oh, now I've wasted a bunch of time, so now I'm going to sit there and cram information into my head. And then they're too tired to really get it in their head, but then they didn't get as much work done, so they're stressed. And what we used to do, and again, worked for me, won't work for everybody, but I kind of lucked into this, is we got people together and we said, okay, we are going to get chapter 1 of this done today. If we get it done by noon, we don't move on to chapter 2 because we have a schedule that we're trying to keep. But if we don't get it done until 7 p.m., hey, we're still here at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and that's going to suck.
Yeah.
So it gives you that structure. But also, we would schedule in break times. It seems kind of dorky and nerdy, but it really did. We would say, okay, at 2 o'clock, we are going to pause and we are going to maybe not watch a movie because that's probably too much of your day gone, but we are going to take a break and we're going to have lunch. And at 1 o'clock, we are going to go for a walk somewhere.
Yeah.
Having something where you go like, no, I don't care how I feel. The break time is scheduled like the work time. You can't go, no, I'm just going to work through this. No, sorry, that's the schedule. You got to do it because it forces you to reset your brain so that you're ready again when you hit the ground running. And so having that schedule, and part of it maybe is just having people where you feel like you can be like, hey, get to work.
Yeah.
That makes a difference.
I think I really want to pinpoint this amazing structure that you just explained, because for me, coming here to a new country, like it was complete, like Google Calendar, Notion, all those productivity tools. I never used them before ever in my life. And I'm going to be honest, I used to miss meetings. I used to be like, coming up with some different reasons. But then again, after my first year, which was a big hit for me as an international student, so I started learning, okay, how do I get better? How do I improve on my time management? I think pretty much if nothing is hard, if it's managed like correctly, like especially in your schedule. Now I have like a semester long schedule where I'm like, okay, like this is Victoria Day, I work, so the work's not going to be there. It's the classes are rescheduled. So all these plannings, everything just helps me to avoid like procrastination, like like doing things on time. Like these are I think very essential skills, and I'm still learning, like I'm still like honing on them, but I feel like that was really amazing feedback for students. Okay, so now we're gonna be pivoting towards AI.
Okay.
Very famous topic around everywhere actually. I'm an econ and stats student, so like whenever I go for a coffee chat or whenever I talk to people, AI is the main topic usually. So today, we just decided to touch a little bit, especially AI industry at UTSC, like people who went on, not UTSC, from UofT, people who graduated UofT and went on doing great things. I have specific questions, but I really want to start with generic ones so that people understand. So can you explain in simple terms what is AI actually doing when we ask ChatGPT a question?
Okay, so that's actually that in itself is not a simple question, because one thing right off the bat is you used what is AI doing when we use ChatGPT question.
Mhm.
So AI is I almost wish that we could just get rid of the word AI from everything, because AI just means artificial intelligence, which means a computer doing a thing that we think of as smart. That is everything from, a computer that can play tic-tac-toe that you could code up in 15 minutes to, large language models and all these advanced things. Nowadays, generative AI, large language models are what people think of when they think of AI. I think it's really important to understand they're not magic. So I do an example that I give to a lot of people when I give a talk of we built a very small language model. In fact, I think we did a version something like this in A20. But I will build one on the board. I say, like, okay, the cat and the dog and the horse went to the house and ate something, blah, blah, blah. Like, very simple sentence. Okay, let's build a model. So after the word the, what's the list of words you can have? After the word cat, what's the list of words you can have? Dog. And then I actually go and get dice, like steal some of my kids' D&D, Dungeons & Dragons dice. I go, okay, well, we're at this word. How many choices do we have? Oh, we have 8. Okay, well, I get a D8, roll it. Oh, okay, we pick a word. All right, now we got how many next choice? Oh, we got 4. Okay, roll a D4. Oh, now we got 12. Roll a D12. And we come up with a sentence. And what you'll get is you get something that it kind of vaguely sounds like a sentence, but it's gibberish, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I go, okay, well, now let's up it a level. And I put in, the entirety of, and this is what we did in A20, you put in the entirety of like Dr. Seuss or something, because it has a lot of repeated words, and you do that same thing. You kind of get, oh, it was kind of vaguely sounding Dr. Seuss-like, because it learns those patterns. And I go, okay, well, now I'm going to put in the entire works of Charles Dickens into one, and it's exactly the same model, and you're going to get, oh, it's starting to, so, okay, but now instead of, 20 words to 100 words to 1,000 words, well, now what if I put in 1 trillion words? That's really all large language models are doing. I mean, it's a little more sophisticated than that, but that's basically the idea. It is guessing at what comes next. And that is really what it's doing there. It's just that it has so much data that it starts to sound more like human language.
Yeah. And like, why do like these models, like AI models, sometimes hallucinate or give like a confident wrong answer?
So that's another good example of, so when you build it, you say, okay, I just said, roll a die, choose a number. Roll a die, choose a word. Roll a die, choose a word. At no point do the models really understand what any of those words mean. And at what point does the system kind of go, oh, wait, that word doesn't make sense in this context? Well, it doesn't, right? It's just running a statistical model. So a hallucination is just, it's the most probable word, or it hit our probability matrix, so we chose it. And it has no concept of this is a good word to use now or this is a bad word to use now. It's just saying, well, this is the most probable, or given our probability dice roll, this is the word we use now. So one example I often like to do is, why is it so bad at fingers, right? That was, nowadays they're fixed a little bit, but that was one of the things of, oh, it's got like 7 fingers, it's got, is because it's doing the same thing. It's looking at a little piece of an image and predicting what comes next. So it goes like, okay, well, fingers are, sort of skin, knuckle, skin, knuckle, skin. And so it goes, okay, there's a skin. Now probability is a knuckle. Now probability after knuckle, probably skin. After that is probably knuckle. After that is probably skin. After that is probably knuckle, which is why you get these weird fingers with like 7. That's all it's doing. It's just pattern matching. So hallucinations are really just a case where the pattern seems sensible, but there's no underlying meaning to it. So where people go, oh, it's okay, why doesn't it just understand that this is not real? Well, because it doesn't understand anything. It's just actually that all the other times it happened to, the statistics worked out in your favor.
I see. Well, that's for me, it's a very complicated topic because, like, again, like I have a very small amount of like information or knowledge of AI, but I'm still, progressing, learning, because we have to at the end of the day. But yeah, I really want to talk about the highlights of the University of Toronto, the people who actually have contributed. When I actually did my research, I remember working at the advancement because I do part-time jobs at UofT, so I work at the advancement, and we had an event with Geoffrey Hinton after he received his Nobel Prize. And honestly, I had no idea about this person. Like, I literally had known anything about, even during the event, like when they said, okay, like we have an event for Geoffrey Hinton Nobel Prize. And then after seeing so many people registering, so many people asking to wait in the waiting list just to see the person to speak, it just hit me, and I was like, okay, like I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna do some research, I'm gonna know who this professor is. But once I did my research, I got to know that a lot of people, actually, not a lot, but three or two people have actually contributed in a large scale to this like AI or the the systems, right? So my question is like UFT has a major connection to AI through Geoffrey Hinton, who's often called the godfather of AI. So if we search up on Google, whenever I talk about my university to my friends, because I have a lot of international friends, and like search up godfather of AI and see who's gonna pop up. So how important was his work to the AI systems we see today?
Um, that's a tough one. I mean, I would both foundational, but also, I think in some ways it's overblown.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not to disparage Jeff at all.
Yeah.
His work is absolutely foundational.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there's this, people like in general media, this idea of the singularity genius, right? This one person who kind of went, hey, let's develop AI. No. I was working in AI
Mm-hmm.
around the time that Jeff was really hitting, like I was just starting at the time he was kind of really coming into his own in the AI community. And I remember being told, "You don't work in this area. Like it's kind of it's plateaued. It's they've had its thing and it's kind of done. These like deep neural networks they're really not going to go anywhere." And really, I think Geoff Hinton's biggest contribution is the persistence and the belief that he was like, no, I think this will work. I think if we keep hammering at it, this is the way forward, even despite everyone kind of going, no, we don't do this, change these models or give up, try something else. And I think he will tell you that as well, that obviously he contributed amazing things, but he was one of many people contributing amazing things.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. So if Geoff Hinton had never become an academic, I think all of his individual contributions, you could imagine other people getting those contributions. Like adversarial neural networks weren't his idea from scratch. There were sort of in the zeitgeist, people working on it. He kind of brought the right people together to build these. These deep neural networks were not a new thing. They were actually an old thing. He just kind of brought the people together and brought the systems together. What would have been different is I think we would have been a decade behind because he was still pushing through even when the funding wasn't pouring in and the journals weren't accepting the papers at the rates that they are now. He had the foresight and the understanding to go, no, I'm pushing this idea. I'm making this move forward. So that, to me, is his biggest contribution. But I think he will tell you, is like, I'm the godfather of AI. And actually, maybe godfather is not a bad term. Better than the father of AI, because I just made this manifest out of, is more he shepherded the field in a way.
Yeah.
So if you look at actually a lot of the really big findings, it wasn't like Jeff has this amazing finding and no one else around. It was Jeff and then a whole bunch of Jeff's PhD students and his postdocs and his things. So looking at the field as a whole, I think in history, it'll go down as his biggest contribution was sort of being the one who kind of pulled the right people together and held that firm saying, yes, this is still worth working on. So I think that was a bigger or an unrealized contribution that he made.
I see. And when he talks about like the risks of AI, like as you know, like a lot of televisions, like a lot of YouTube channels now, they started like promoting this. Oh, AI will replace humanity. AI will run the society. Like these things, like the risks of AI, especially the Professor Geoffrey Hinton himself. He also pushes this idea where AI can, cause a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So how seriously should the students or just in general people should take this?
So again, it's hard to give you the answers that are sort of fun buzzword answers, but the real answer is both incredibly seriously and it's massively overblown. So I regularly give a talk that I call anyone who tells you that they know what's going to happen is either stupid or they're selling you something.
Yeah.
And the logic there is, and I go through the history of the internet, of television, of radio, of the printing press, and you look at what were people worried about as the technology came out. With the internet, it was like these roving cyber criminal gangs were going to take things, or it's going to completely, or Y2K. When I was a student, that was a big worry. That I don't know if people watching would even know. There was this idea that when all the computers went from 1999 to 2000, just the world was going to end. Turned out to be nothing. This is true of television, right? The example I give is like I forget, actually, it wasn't Ozzie and Harriet. I thought it was. It was a different TV show that I found there. The first time they showed a couple's bedroom, that they showed there was only one bed in the bedroom. This was, you are implying things. You are showing that this married couple has only one bed in their bedroom. They didn't have the Ozzie and Harriet separate beds. Scandalous, horrible. This is going to completely corrupt our... Most of these things you look back now and are stupid. But now look back and what are the actual problems? What are the problems of TV? I go to the example of, around the time TV was happening, you had, things like the Korean War, the Vietnam War, where suddenly, watching the news in your own home and seeing pictures of things that are happening, that had a huge impact on society. The internet, no one was worried about things like surveillance capitalism when it was first coming out because no one had that on the radar. No one was thinking about it. So the majority of things to be worried about, or majority of things people were worrying about, not actually an issue. The majority of things that people should have been worried about, no one actually had on their radar. And it works the other way too, because all these things that were going to revolutionize and be amazing. You have these old articles about the internet is going to end racism because, you will connect with people from around the world and, we will have access to information. So, of course, humanity will just give up on racism. Spoiler alert, didn't work. But also, if you had gone back in 2000 and explained the concept of Wikipedia to people, they would go like, so you are just like, this is like the most important thing, right? People are just like in constant awe of this amazing volume of information they have. We don't even think about it now. Or with TV, the example I give, UTSC was the television campus. So the Leah Lee Brown Theater was originally a television studio. And the idea was professors would come in very much like this. There'd be a TV camera pointed at them. They would deliver their lecture and it would be broadcast around. This was going to revolutionize education. And obviously didn't do anything. But around the same time, Sesame Street comes out. That silly little show about puppets completely changes the education landscape. So in the same way, the things that people are worried about mostly don't become a problem. The things that people are excited about mostly don't come to fruition. But the really scary stuff, most people aren't even thinking about. The really amazing stuff, most people don't know. So this is to say, the stuff that you read these articles of, it's going to destroy everything. Take that with a big grain of salt. The person writing it either doesn't understand the context or they have the particular agenda they're trying to sell. Likewise, this is going to completely fix all of our problems and just give us another $1 trillion and we'll solve world hunger.
Yeah.
Likewise, go, I don't know how much I believe that. But that's not to say there won't be problems. There will be problems. And that's not to say there won't be amazing things. There will be amazing things. It's just that there's about a 90% chance that those problems, those amazing things, aren't the things you're worried about right now.
And to follow up on that question, like I know a lot of people like talk about how much money getting invested for these companies like to do a lot of like amazing things, right? So there's a concept called bubble. So like how much do you believe in that? Like, do you think AI is like a big bubble where like, for example, when the Meta gave up that idea, they said, oh, the bubble burst. Like some people like take it like in a different way. So
Yeah.
what do you personally think that like do you think the AI is a bubble or
So again, is it tricky? Yes and no. So it is. I don't think it is a bubble in the way the most recent was the VR, alternate reality,
Yeah.
metaverse, trillions of dollars put
Oh my
in,
God.
and it just was like, no, there was no there. There was nothing really behind it. No one actually cared about this stuff or wanted it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that level of bubble. I think it's very much like when I was an undergraduate student, we talked about the .com bubble, right? So around the late 90s, early 2000s, the internet went from this like weird thing that like a small number of people were doing on their BBS boards and whatever to suddenly it was this pervasive thing. And everyone realized this is going to be important, but we don't know why or how exactly. So you look at things like, I think it was pets.com that was a website that had just the equivalent today of billions of dollars in venture capital funding to like, this will be the pet supply store. It'll be everything with pets. It'll be fantastic. Pizza.com was another one. That they spent all this money, and it was only afterwards. They had no idea how to actually take payments because back then no one put their credit cards online because that just wasn't a system yet.
Yeah.
But it was just this sort of deck of cards. You were like a house of cards. You kind of shell game the money around, and no one realizes, oh, there's no actual revenue behind this.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't think you would look back now and go, yeah, this internet was just a fad. It didn't really go anywhere. So I think that of all this money pouring in, probably, 90% of this is going to come to nothing.
Yeah.
But the 10% that is going to be such a big deal that, it's in some ways, would I recommend you put your kid's college fund into an AI company? Probably not, because there is, a 90% chance that whatever particular company will become a pets.com or a pizza.com, and only a 10% chance it becomes a PayPal or a Google or an Amazon.
Yeah.
But does that mean that these big companies that are pouring the money in and spreading it around? Well, I think they're smart people. They are taking the bet that, okay, 90% of this falls down, but the 10% that doesn't is so important and so lucrative that maybe it's worthwhile.
Oh.
So I think it's very much like the internet, that it will be, you will look back in 25-ish years now, let's say, since the internet really hit, the .com bubble hit, you will look back and go, yeah, a lot of this stuff, man, I can't believe anyone bought this ridiculous. They thought this was going to actually be valuable. And you see that, right? You see these companies where you're like, you don't have a company here. You just have hype around hype around hype. You don't actually even have an idea of how to make money out of this. But you'll look back and go, yeah, but the idea that it was just going to go away, no, I don't think it's going away. I think it will become like the internet. It will become such a pervasive part of our lives that you won't even know what the world was like without it.
Yeah, I think you introducing this, like the history of internet, gave me a different perspective on like AI and how it's gonna go. But again, like that's a beautiful. I think that was a beautiful explanation. But about two major open AI figures. Not sure if you are aware of them or not sure if you've heard of them. Ilyas Sutskever and Andrei Karpathy study at UofT.
Yep.
And my question is, like, what does that say about UofT and Toronto's role in shaping modern AI?
So much like with Geoff Hinton, I would say they are an indicator, but I think people are putting too much emphasis on these like half a dozen people and not enough on UofT has for, let's say, 40 to 50 years been a real leader in the technology space and willing to put the time and the energy and investment into things like AI back when, deep neural networks were not the hot, cool topic. A lot of other institutions went, no, we're chasing the grants over here, right? Suddenly, you know, Bitcoin became the cool thing, so we're going to put all our money into crypto. Oh, now quantum is the big thing. We're going to put all our money into there. Now social media is the big thing. We're going to put all our money into here. U of T, I think the great thing that they have done for a long time is said, no, we understand the fundamentals. We care about doing good quality research, doing the big ideas that are going to, they're not necessarily going to pay off next week or next year or next decade even. But we will fundamentally build up, and you look at this in our computer science, like I said, we don't teach students how to code. That is not what computer science is. We teach you the fundamental ideas, the structures, the analysis, the deeper ideas. Now, if we're trying to do is maximize the get those people out there and either the most likely to highest percentage that are going to have a company that will make some money, that's not how you do it, right? You want to go let's do the boot camp, vibe coding, get them out the door.
Mm-hmm.
U of T has said, no, we are going to invest in those big ideas that will be foundational to whatever comes next. And I think that's why you're seeing U of T really is punching above its weight, not just in these 3, 4, 10, 20 really big names.
Mm-hmm.
If you go and you look at sort of the next layers down where you have the top 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 people, even more so, you see a much higher percentage of U of T people than you would expect from the size and the competitiveness and other things like that. It's really those real thought leaders are coming out of U of T for those reasons.
I see. And to kind of follow up with that question, these people with higher roles in these companies, I know you spend a lot of time at UTSC or U of T specifically. Have you seen them or have you had a chat or talk with them while they were doing these amazing the research? Were you involved? Were you invited? Or
I did a little bit of bit back when I went to grad school.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had the choice of I was down between U of T and Stanford, back and forth, and trying to decide before Oxford came in. But one of the reasons U of T, I sort of went, I'm not really super excited because they're really doing this AI stuff, and I don't really think AI is what I care about or want to do. It wasn't the hot topic at the time. I actually preferred to do, in fact, I was more into the theory stuff. Turns out that probably had I made a different decision, I would have 8 billion more citations than I do now. So I actually moved away from that. I came back in doing AI and language processing sort of later in my work. And I did do, a lot of the people I worked with at Oxford then went on to, the Google DeepMind was originally DeepMind that became Google DeepMind, came out of Oxford, and a bunch of people, Ed Greffenstedt, some of those types of people that came out of there, that I knew fairly well early days. Unfortunately, I then moved on again to work on pedagogy that could, not unfortunately, because I'm very happy with my career, how it turned out, but in terms of citation count, if I'd stuck around and spent more time in that world, probably both my citation counts and my bank account would probably have been very happy for me doing it. So it's funny, it almost seemed to have been the harbinger of things of, okay, whatever Brian decides not to do, invest in that. It would be a good bet. So I'm only really just kind of now getting back into the AI world and AI field after having spent a decade more in the education field. So AI is one of those things where taking 10 years off, well, you might as well be in a whole different world. Things change so rapidly.
That's right. So what has changed? As you said, you've came back to this AI world. What do you think has changed after your break?
So I guess the couple things. The actual foundational technology has changed, right? Because that was really where Geoff Hinton and the people around him kind of went. So I was working in semantic networks back when he was first not first, but he was the deep neural networks, the adversarial neural networks were really taking off. And I was being told, no, don't, this is not the way to do it. Go with more the machine learning-y type approach, statistical approaches. Um, and now that's just a given that that's the way things work, right? His model and these types of things is just the way things are. To the point where actually I've said to a couple, if you're going into grad school research now, maybe try looking at other areas because these areas are so saturated. Maybe some of these other ideas of what's next, like what Jeff did, kind of going, no, I believe I'm going to build up this other area to work towards things. And the other thing is the money. It's, this was sort of I remember back when like, oh yeah, but we have this cool idea, but like you would have to buy like $10,000 worth of processors to do this. So there's no way we're going to get to do it. Now, like, you're billions of dollars in processors? Sure, what the heck? Is because it's now something which the industry has gone, hey, there's value here. So suddenly there's all this money flowing in from industry side of it. And so that's really exploded. And it's a bit of a self-reinforcing loop, right? The money comes in so that people come up with cool things. So that shows industry there's cool things. So they put more money into it. And then it kind of becomes this positive reinforcement loop.
Yeah. So when it comes to you, like, which one would you pick? Would you go with the trend and follow that AI path? Or would you try to, like, spend more time outside of AI that can actually bring some, I don't know, different changes like AI did, right?
Yeah, so I had a bit of a thought about this recently of like, okay, should I really go back and build, worry about like foundation models and design and doing the really deep stuff? Because like, okay, maybe I could get caught up. I'm on sabbatical right now. Thought about like, could I spend my sabbatical really getting back in and getting caught up and touch on those frontier model stuff? And partially it's just like, that's I don't it's not what excites me anymore because it's not that sort of blue sky trying new stuff.
Yeah.
But also I feel like let's do a different approach to things. Let's try something different. So really what I've been working on over this year particularly, but in the past couple of years, is how can we use these tools? So I worked with Steve Jordans in psychology and a couple other people. We developed Talk Lab, which is using generative AI to actually give conversational partners to students to have practice conversation and training. And we've been using them to give oral exams and assessments, which is something that there's not a billion people working on. In fact, we are sort of able to jump out and be front leaders in these areas because it's not the hot ticket billion-dollar industry. We can actually push things forward much more than other areas. But I like that. I can, it's open. It's trying. I just came back I was in Lisbon last week giving a talk on governing agentic AI, and it's something where people are like, okay, this is going to be a big deal. But right now, it's no. Who cares? Let's just push forward. Let's just make the cool stuff and make the money and do all this. And I was like, oh, well, I can make a big difference here if I can be the person who is going like, hey, let's try to make these things not as sycophantic. Let's try and make these things not as, not as mirroring, not as likely to go down rabbit holes. These sorts of problems that the models have. Is that going to get me billions of dollars in funding? No. But potentially, is this something that I can have a real impact on the types of models that we're giving to students or we're giving to the world? I think we have a much higher chance than, okay, I'm going to chase the frontier model that a million other people are working on right now.
I see. And one of the most discussed topics, of course, about work, studies, education, how AI impacted these industries. Like a lot of people, especially in social media right now, a lot of people say, oh, your diploma, your college is not worth nothing right now. Like you study 4 years, you spent 4 years. Now all those analysts in finance, all those works are getting replaced. So what are you going to do now? So what's your opinion about that?
So if you were a student who had just completed a technical school and said, I just spent 4 years becoming a really, really good C++ programmer, I would say, yeah, you're in trouble, right? If you say, I just became a really, really good data analyst, no, not data analyst, data coder,
Mm-hmm.
got very, very good at Excel, very, very good at this very specific skill, and say, yeah, absolutely, these AIs might come in and wipe you out. But that's not what we're doing here. So most of what we're doing, and I think I would have said this in A20, if you leave that course and never write a line of code again, I don't actually care that much, because my goal in that course is not to teach you how to write code. It is to teach you how to think about problems, how to dissect things. That's something that's still valuable in all sorts of areas of the world. Is it going to, problematic with the economy and because some of these low-level jobs and they can automate it away? Yes, but those will come back. They will come back in different ways. It will be like every new technology, it shuffles up things, but for the most part, there are more new things developed than there are things that go away.
I see.
So again, going back, repeating the same story a bit with the internet. I remember being told, don't go into programming, don't go into computer science, because this internet thing is going to make it. Why would anyone need it? Because prior to the internet, every company would hire one computer guy. It was always a guy. It was always that, but it was basically, you're going to build the entire thing top to bottom. You are going to have to build everything from scratch, or send away in the mail for someone to give you code or whatever. And this internet thing is going to make it one person will write the code, and then why would anyone hire anyone? Well, yeah, there was. So if you look at the enrollment in computer science around the time I was an undergrad, it went from, man, they couldn't, they couldn't keep, or they couldn't have seats for people, to suddenly there was just no one in the classes. And then 10 years later, it's oh, well, we're back to where we were before. So I think it's very much that same model, that in 10 years, it will be more coders, more developers, but you will be doing different stuff. You will be doing higher level. You will be doing the planning and the design and the validation, and that sort of stuff will, I think, be much more valuable. The actual hey, can you make a spreadsheet do what we want it to do? Can you write this 20-line Java program? Yeah, that will absolutely go away.
Yeah.
But if we have AI that is able to replace the things we actually care about teaching you, the critical thinking, the deeper analysis, the more human elements of it. I mean, if we have AI replacing that, we got bigger problems to worry about in the job market, right? That's AGI level singularity type stuff. So I think for students doing these types of degrees, I don't worry as much. Now, is it still going to be bad? Right? I don't envy students graduating right now, because businesses think it's going to be that way. And businesses go, oh, great, we just won't hire anyone under the age of 40 anymore, because we can automate all those jobs away. And it will take 10 years before they realize, oops, we now have all this vibe-coded junk that doesn't really work, and we don't understand what we're doing, and it's all a mishmash and causing these problems. Hey, we need to hire these humans back. So it's going to suck for 10 years. It's going to cause all these problems in the economy. I think in 10 years, you'll look back much like with the internet, where you're well, now, or say 10 years ago, every job had some element of it to the internet. It started all these entire fields. I think AI will be similar, that there will just be a proliferation of things to do, hopefully in a way that is you're actually doing a higher level, more cognitively engaging thing, and not just the lower level work.
I see. And you mentioned a little bit about your career choices, how people were discouraging you actually from taking this AI path. So in the end, once you completed these degrees and educational diploma, you got these educational diplomas. Uh, did you ever think about going somewhere like maybe Google or Facebook or like something really big where the pay is like 500,000 or maybe?
Yeah. I definitely I've had a lot of conversations with friends and colleagues who, one particular friend that we went through university together. We were one of those people that were always working, and he was always the like, if I got a B plus on something, he got a B minus. If I got an
Mm-hmm.
A minus, he got a B plus. It was just that little bit below on every grade all the way through. And at the end of university, it was very much, I think he did wind up going and doing a master's, but then stopped there. Um, and he being like, I just didn't quite have what I needed to get into grad school or to get into higher level grad school. And then, you know, 10, 15 years on, where I'm, let's say 10 years on, where I'm still like doing postdocs and looking for things, and he's been hired by some big tech company and is making 10 times the amount that I make, right? So on paper, I tell a lot of students, so I have a lot of students who come to me and say, I want to do grad school. And the first thing I tell students is, this is almost always, at least in computer science, in any STEM field usually,
Yeah.
this is a bad idea. On paper, if you look back at the end of your life, if you could split here, one version of you goes into academia, one version of you goes into industry, on paper, the industry version will probably be more likely to have a higher salary, more likely to have job security, more likely all this stuff, right? It's just statistically, it's a bad thing. But I love my job, right? A good example was there was something a couple of years ago where they said, "Hey, negotiations, we got you extra sick days," and it was one of the faculty went, "Are we supposed to tell someone if we're sick? Like I've worked here for 30 years and I never taken a sick day because that's not a thing I have to worry about. Like if I'm missing a lecture, I tell the students I've missed a lecture, but like I like I said, I went to Lisbon last week for a week for a conference. I didn't get permission to do it. It was like, oh, this is a good thing I want to do. Okay, I'm going to go do this thing. And to me, that freedom of like, I'm working on top interesting ideas, I can kind of have freedom of what I don't know that I would want to trade that for. No.
Something corporate.
No, if someone wants to give me $500,000 a year, we can talk. But no, if I wanted to go into the corporate side, I'm sure I would have had lots of opportunities, especially in the real sort of
Mm-hmm.
like 2010-ish. Facebook was gobbling up people, but it was never something that really interested me because I love my job and I love that freedom. And again, I realize that's a very privileged thing to be able to say, right?
Yeah.
I have never had to worry about like, can I feed my family? Can I make my mortgage payments?
Yeah.
To me, as long as I'm above that, then freedom and enjoying what I do and caring about the value of the work is the most important thing. Obviously, if it was like, we can't make our mortgage payment this month, we can't pay for our kids to go to whatever summer camp or whatever, pay to put food on the table. Obviously, that would be a big difference in our my decision. But like, I don't really believe that if someone tripled my salary tomorrow, I would be 3 times as happy. Again, if you want to give triple it, I'm not gonna not gonna argue. But I don't know that as long as I have enough to get by,
Yeah.
I care about other stuff in my life.
Yeah. I think it's a very different type of thinking that I see a lot in my my with my peers, especially the ones that do STEM, like engineering, computer science, and like I have a best friend who does electrical engineering, and I always ask him, I'm like, hey, like, what's your now you're graduating? He's 1 year older than me. He's like, now you're graduating. What are you gonna do now? Like, are you gonna get a job? Like, what are the plans? Are you not stressed about getting a job? Like, how are you going to support yourself? And he's like, you know what? as long as I have something to eat, as long as I have something to get by, I'm like, a lot of your friends got like this car, that car, and then he's like, you know what? Like, as long as I go to A to B, like I'm happy. Like
Yeah.
I love what I do, and like there are some people like who dedicate themselves to what they like, what they love. So I think that's something like deeper level connection to something like yeah. But like we're a little short on time, but I will start rapid firing a few
All right,
questions.
let's go.
So we're gonna wrap up the main topic questions, and then I have like a teaser, like a fun question in the end to make some
Sounds good.
clips. So my last question is about the usage of AI for students, like and as well as yourself. So how should a student use AI, or how should a student strategize or make use of these tools so that the productivity is boosted in the end? And do you ever use AI tools yourself, like in a
Yeah.
daily basis?
So I use AI a lot. I mean, obviously, I've got an AI tech startup, so obviously for that kind of stuff we're doing. But like around the house, so my daughter was watching me, came in the room at some point, and I was writing a paper, and I had a graph for the paper, and was using uh, like LaTeX
Mm-hmm.
image generation stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? No, I don't want the hash marks I want them every 5. I was like, oh, okay, well, let's go to Gemini or whatever it was and say, hey, can you do this to make the hash marks go at this particular? Dad, you're not supposed to use AI in your work. Like, there's no value in me going and looking up what the LaTeX command is for matplotlib command to like, oh, what's the thing? And like that is boring, redundant work. Great, fantastic. Use that out of the way. Would I do it to like write a paper for me? No, because the value in writing the paper is writing the paper. So the analogy I like to use, and I gave a TEDx talk here recently on that, is the joke I do is like, hey, you know what I'm going to build? I'm going to build a self-lifting gym, a gym where the robots lift all the weights and run on the treadmill and do the erg for you. Like, and I think it actually drives home that like, if the point of going to the gym is to exercise, don't have a robot do the exercise for you. And the point of the gym is not to be as productive as possible, right? No one cares that like, hey, look at these number of weights that were lifted under your ledger. Right. If the goal is that, if you're just like, hey, for this job, for this role, for this thing, I don't actually care about the process. I just care about having this output done. Okay, great, use AI. But I think it's important to be intentional about what is the value of the thing I'm doing. Is it in producing the result, or is it in going through the process? And especially at university, most of the work you're doing is the process.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, like, do you think I need another assignment on how to plot some data? No, I don't. That doesn't need to exist, right? Producing the result is only so I can check that you've done the process. Going back to, do you think your English professor really desperately needs yet another essay on the Great Gatsby? No. The value in the exercise is you having done it. And so I think that is just always stopping for a second and thinking about, am I doing a self-lifting gym? Am I worried about the result and forgetting that the process was there?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where, and it's hard, right? Because we are in a world right now where there's so much pressure to produce on students that, okay, well, this can help me get my homework done. This can help me get these assignments done. This can help me but ultimately, hopefully, what matters is your learning, because that's eventually what translates to grades and jobs and all these things. If you're short-circuiting the learning, it's the self-lifting gym, right? It's like, wow, look at all these weights that got lifted with my name, but you never actually grew your muscles. There's actually no point in doing it.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. It just made me think about, okay, wow, that's like ultimately again, like the goal is just to learn something at the university. So that's why we're here. Last part, few questions, fun questions. They're
All right.
meant to be, and short and fun. So, Do professors know when a student used ChatGPT badly?
Yes. There's a difference between knowing and being able to prove. But yes, absolutely. Almost always. In fact, I actually asked this to my TAs at one point of like, I want you to put on the grading thing just an X beside all the ones where pretty sure this was LLM generated. And looking through, like, yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of these are LLM generated. But actually, for those, we can never prove they did it. But one thing we can do is we can look at, oh, you got 100% on this assignment and then 20% on the exam. Well, I'm pretty sure I know what happened there.
Yeah. Beautiful. Next question. If ChatGPT were a student in your class, would it pass?
Usually, yes. Unfortunately, because certainly the first year courses, they can do anything we ask our first year students to do. This is something that we are working on is, well, then maybe we need to rethink how we're evaluating. But it's going to take us a while to rethink our evaluation in a way that we are evaluating the skills that cannot be just done with ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. If AI tried to teach your course, what would it still fail at?
The empathy, the human connection. I'm a big believer that like you don't actually need me to give you content, right? Like intro programming, there are unlimited YouTube channels and tutorials that are better than me, right? These are people who just by volume, like there's zero chance that I am the top of that list of all the content that's out there. I like to think I'm in the top half of that list, maybe, but no, for sure, there's someone else who has better content. That's not why you're in my class. You're in my class for me to help you become a better person. And that's not something that I think any of the ChatGPT or the OpenAI or the LLM-based models can be doing right now is having that understanding, that empathy, that tailoring it to what helps you grow as a person instead of what helps you finish that assignment.
Amazing. Next one. What's one thing humans are still much better at than AI?
So I think same thing. Going to go back to that, just connection, human connection. This is actually part of what Talk Lab is doing, is trying to make AIs that feel more like human connection, but not to replace human connection, to practice human connection. Most agents are still helpful assistants. And what they're very good at is kissing your ass, telling you you're great, solving the problem for you. What they're not good at is helping you become the person you need to learn how to solve this problem for yourself in the future.
And that alone we get it at university.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And of course about Reddit. So how often do you check your Reddit, and how often do you like see the posts and then you're like, okay, like I have to reply to this one?
More often than I should. Honestly, you could probably gauge how bored I am by how many Reddit posts I make. It is something where I will fully admit to, like, I'm writing a paper and I'm stuck on something. Well, I could go and, I don't know, watch YouTube for 15 minutes or go check on some other source of. I basically have no other social media other than Reddit.
Wow.
Just because I'm like, well, I could go and spend 15 minutes on scrolling TikTok or Instagram or something. And at the end, I just feel kind of empty. Or I could go and jump on Reddit and answer a student question or try to connect with a student. And in the end, you feel a bit more fulfilled.
Yeah.
I don't have like a schedule. It's not like I will regularly go, like, when I was just away at this conference, I don't think I checked the subreddit for the whole time I was gone because I'm busy doing other things.
Yeah.
But it becomes a thing of, if I'm like really struggling writing a paper, I probably check it a couple times a day because it's something that gives me a mental break to go do something different.
Yeah.
If I'm busy and I'm filled, or like in the summer when the kids are off school and I'm playing at the lake with them, I'm probably not checking it very often at all.
Yeah. But my last question is, what's the craziest Reddit post that you ever read?
I'm going to stick to UTSC subreddits because there's probably some stuff. I actually purposely stay off. So I have the Reddit app but even on your like device, I one thing I regularly do is I regularly make a point of like I'm going to spend half an hour just looking at like pictures of kittens or like cute or impressive nature things, so that when it rolls up, it
Yeah.
doesn't give me yet another thing about politics or whatever trying to make me angry.
Yeah.
Um, so the UTS, I mean, definitely those every once in a while. There's the Brian Harrington appreciation post, and that was very like, very heartwarming. Felt very good. A little bit of cringe. Um, but in terms of the crazy ones, are the ones where students will just full on admit to breaking the rules, right? Like it's amazing how many people will go on there and just be like, "Hey, I did this, or I cheated on this, or I found this way," and you're thinking they're like don't, and especially if you're like you're not as anonymous as you think you are. Don't admit to cheating on an assignment, even if you think you don't have your name attached to it. This is not a good idea. So that is the kind of things where I have to be like,
Interesting.
it makes me worry sometimes for students.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much. It was a very interesting and insightful
Happy to. It was
podcast.
a lot of fun.
Yeah, we appreciate you a lot for coming today. Hope students, especially freshmen, find it very helpful. And yeah, have a great rest of the day.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye. Okay.